So, what?
You're so awkward.
I am not awkward. You can go to hell. That's your problem. And I think that as we go forward and as we're trying to figure out like who we are and what we're doing in this world that doesn't really value the shit that we do. Whoa.
Oh.
Someone was just like pulled apart by wolves in another channel.
Welcome to Fuse Forum, everybody. Thanks for taking the time. Today we have another guest speaker. Same format as usual. So Ryan will, talk to us a little bit about whatever the hell warrior life lessons are for 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And then we get to pepper him with questions afterwards. For those of you who've not met Ryan or have not heard of Percolate before, you should go check out Percolate because they do really awesome work. They like fantastic reference for 2D animation. As far as I'm concerned, like the benchmark for 2D animation in Indonesia, like with a really distinct art style. And somehow they're able to like force that wild art style onto their clients. I don't know how they make it work, but I guess hopefully we'll learn a little bit of that today from Ryan. So without further ado, Ryan, floor is yours, man.
Yeah, okay. Hello, Fuse Lab.
Hello.
I am Ryan Jackson. I am the co-founder of Percolate Galactic with my lovely wife and co-founder, Samantha, who is back there somewhere lying on a couch.
I'm not laying down.
She says she's not laying down on a couch. She's a goddamn liar. And I would like to thank Obed for having me here today. I have no idea what the idea of having me speak is other than making all of you dumber. But I put together a little presentation and I'm hoping that it is worth something. So the name of this talk is going to be Durian Eternal. If any of you are going like, I thought Percolate Galactic was better at graphic design than this, I made it all myself. So I am the only person to blame for any of this. Starting with an invocation. One of my favorites from William Blake. I must create a system or be enslaved by another man's. I will not reason and compare. My business is to create. And my second favorite philosopher, which is Johnny Mnemonic, which is Keanu Reeves. I can carry 80 gigs of data in my head. So, what?
You're so awkward.
I am not awkward. You can go to hell. That's your problem. So starting off, I have these strange memories of being 6 or 7 years old and going to the video store to rent Nintendo games. When you'd go in there, there was just one shelf and it had like 20 games on it. This was like the late 80s. And so if you were going to rent a Nintendo game, there weren't that many to choose from. So you just kind of picked the one out that had the best box art and you went with it. All of these things were like magical experiences. Each game, something different and amazing. And later my family went on vacation and we stayed in a cabin and the owner of that cabin had a Nintendo with different games than those ones that I could rent. And it was the most amazing thing for me I could possibly imagine. I have no other memories of that vacation at all. So we fast forward to 30 years later. We were trying to come up with a new website header for Percolate's website. And I was like, you know what? One of those magazines that was popular with Nintendo players from 1988, let's just rip that off wholesale. Take the whole idea, make it a little bit Percolate, redo it as an homage. Absolutely nobody knew what I was talking about, and they just kind of assumed that this is Ryan being Ryan. Later that year, Netflix released a documentary featuring nostalgic old millennials babbling about that same fan magazine. And I just kind of had this feeling of like, oh shit, thousands of people had the same experience I did. And I don't know how to really process that. There's the two covers. So for the people who kind of like came of age during that time, who were like 7 or 8 years old, video games were amazing. And I say like it hit my generation like a bomb, and it changed all of us. The way that we would view the world going forward and the world that we would shape for all the people that came after us, especially in the creative industry, that all affected from these people making video games. Which leads me to this guy that there's a photo of right here. His name is Koji Obata. You don't know who he is, and honestly, when I was making this, I didn't know who he was. But he made one of the games that I would rent from that store when I was 6 or 7 years old. The game was called Ikari Warriors. It was really, really difficult, but the theme song for it was absolutely amazing. I'm not going to subject you to a long time to this, but there we go. So when I do household chores now, stuff like doing the dishes and whatever, I will still occasionally sing the theme song from that video game. Here it is 30 years later, and that stupid game, which is basically a ripoff of Rambo, that was made by 4 guys in 1980s Japan, that had an influence on my entire life. No, don't play it again. And then when I was doing making the materials for this presentation, I realized that there was like people writing whole articles about this guy that I had never heard of. And I was realizing, so it wasn't just me, there were lots of people that had this exact same experience. Koji Obata has no idea that I'm writing this about him. He has no idea that people like care about what he made. He was just some dude paid by a large corporation to sit in a room in the 1980s and come up with a Rambo ripoff. And he made a great one. And then he made another great one. And he made another great one. And he's completely anonymous. So then you start to ask, like, what does any of that mean? Why am I babbling about this to you when you could be doing literally anything else with your life? And I think that the real point of this whole talk is going to be is because you have a Koji Obata somewhere in your life too. And you think about the things that led you to where you are right now. Some of the stuff is like super obvious. Your family, obviously, your friends, where you grew up, your neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. Some of that stuff is just like the butterflying effect of history, where at some point you ended up in Indonesia through generation after generation of people immigrating from different places. And those things are all important, but there's much smaller things than that. If you think about when you're a little kid and what was the shows that you watched when you were growing up, like what theme songs can you still hear and then just immediately like that, you're back to where you were, or a candy you had at the like convenience store or at the market that you were just like, oh my God, this thing is great. I would eat this forever if I could. And then you start to get older and you think about the songs that meant something to you when you were like 7 or 12 or 16 or 21. And then you even get into like the stupid YouTube video you might have seen 2 or 3 years ago that you still sometimes like think about and laugh. And for you, all of these things just happened, but none of them happened randomly. Each of them were creations of a very specific person doing something that mattered to them at that time. Because if they had done half-assed stuff, you wouldn't remember it. And all these things, they comprise pieces of your life, and you don't know the names of the people that made them. But without them, you become someone different. If you don't have this happen to you when you're 5 or 6, then you're not the same person when you're 30. And here we go for one more small tangent as we think about it. You think of a kid today, and you think of what they go through when they're growing up. Let's say they had just sat down and watched Avengers for the 50th time, and they know every line. They know like every snippet of music, every sound effect, everything that happens in that film they have ingrained in their head. And the film after that, and the film after that. It is just, that's now part of their childhood. And most of you would go like, oh yeah, and that means they love Chris Evans or they love Robert Downey Jr. Somewhere in the production of that film is a motion capture performer named Alan Henry. I also learned his name when I was coming up with this presentation. And the reason I picked it was I just went through a list of people in the credits, which is like 700 or 800 people long. And he was at random. I had no idea who he was. And I went to his IMDb and I started looking into his background. And this is some funny stuff that you find out. Alan Henry has worked since its founding at Weta Digital, which is Peter Jackson's effects house. Weta Digital, when they first started, single-handedly took the special effects market away from just belonging to George Lucas. Nobody had done anything like they had ever done. So he's already special for having been part of that. But then you go into what he's done with his career. And this is a guy you've never heard of before in your life. And you go, well, he's been part of pretty much every movie you've seen at the movie theater for the last 7 or 8 years, like all of them. And then you think of the kids who watched all these films growing up. They don't know that they're Alan Henry fans, but they're Alan Henry fans. Alan Henry has become this like anonymous part of something extraordinary and life-shaping for all of these people. And then you get to, so like, I don't know Alan Henry or Koji Obata. I would doubt that they're rich. And in the winners and losers of capitalism, they are both decidedly losers. They fucked up. They did the wrong thing. I'm a loser too, as are probably most of you, because unless you're a secret millionaire, the world does not value the stuff that you do the way that it should. But then you have to ask yourself, like, maybe the way that we measure what success means, which is often, did you make a lot of money, is the wrong measuring stick for wins and losses. And then I think about the stuff that I do, and I feel like if at some point a stranger came up to me when I was 60 years old and now they're 30, and they go, well, I saw something that you made when I was 7 years old, and I still laugh about it, or I still know the theme song, or something about that still resonates with me. That's really important. That's something that you did, and you weren't paid a lot of money for it, but it mattered. And I think that as we go forward and as we're trying to figure out like who we are and what we're doing in this world that doesn't really value the shit that we do, like they created a whole word for it, which is content. And they've managed to make every sentence, song, and film ever made fit into this box called content so they can sell it easier. Is you have to ask yourself, who am I making my work for? And then you have to ask, is it good? And then you have to ask the really scary one, does it matter? And the reason I started thinking about this is about 5 years ago, I did a talk called Epic Durian. It was an attempt to be inspiration. It's funny, 2015, Obed, as we were just talking about. I was trying to come up with something that would sound inspirational to a bunch of college kids. And honestly, it was bullshit. It was bullshit because the stuff that we were making, even as I said, you should make strange and weird and crazy things. The stuff we made was boring. If you've been to an Ismaya restaurant, you've seen the stuff I made. It's bleh. But the premise of that talk was simple. It's durians are fruit that force you to feel something. You either love a durian or you hate a durian. Nobody's ever just like, it's fine. Apples are fruit that almost everyone loves. It's better to be something that it's unique but hated than it is to be something that people just like and forget. I still believe that's true. And I have lost money because of that idea. I've lost a great deal of money because of that idea. I have lost coworkers at Percolate. I have lost friends at Percolate. I've lost friends and coworkers across the wider world. People that I thought I would work with creatively for decades. I have to believe that creating something that is unique and memorable is worth it, because if I don't, I'm kind of fucked. It means that thousands of hours of my life have been devoted to a mistake, which would be not that much fun. Which get me to the Latin phrase that I started this with, which is credo quia absurdum, which means I believe it because it's absurd. To believe in something as unmeasurable as does it matter in the face of is it profitable is genuinely fucking absurd. But as we look for answers, and this pandemic has made those answers even harder to find, you say most things are absurd. So I guess this plan of just trying to make something that matters is as good as any other. And if you need an answer more certain than that, which Samantha, the first thing she said after she read this is she's just like, your ending, you don't have an answer. Nothing here makes any sense. Is nothing's certain. You live in a world where this man is worth $114 billion. I don't know how anything works, and probably neither do you, and that's fine. And that was the end.
Wow. Yeah, I was not expecting that. I don't know what anyone else was expecting, but yeah, that was really fascinating. I really love the idea of
This is
obscure people who impact like so many lives. Like I never really thought of like Alan, whatever his name is, you know, God bless him, I've already forgotten his name. Like he's literally in all of those movies. Or that Mario cover ripoff, like those influences are yeah, that's really fascinating to think about. So thanks for a really interesting talk. It's kind of a mind fuck to be honest, man. But like I'm sure
I'm glad that dude, I'm just excited that someone else played Akari Warriors before.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Over here on DOS,
so
man.
Yeah, so I guess, you know, if there are any questions for Ryan, please do shout them out or drop them in the chat. But yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
No, but I love the idea. Like for those of you guys who don't know, like I met Ryan. I actually met his wife first when I was still working at a magazine, and then I heard about the agency, and then I went to a Halloween party at their office, and Ryan and Sam, both of them have, I think, played a very big part in me like making this stupid decision to try to start Fuse Lab in a very in a very big way, like more than they realize, I think. Just because of and it has a lot to do with what, the presentation that Ryan gave today, just the idea of like is it good and does it matter, and who are you doing the work for, wherever you're working at, even if you're an entrepreneur or you're working at another company. Like that poor guy who's just like working at a video game company. I'm sure he had ambitions of, I am gonna one up Mario, right? And no, they're like, just do a Rambo, just do a ripoff, man. But that kind of stuff can still have impact that's imperceivable in the moment. Anyway, now I'm rambling. So questions for Ryan.
I got one.
Yo.
My name is Kemal. Been a huge fan of Percolate since the early Rendang of Death days. Someone from Percolate even drew this picture for me from a submission on Twitter or some shit like 2 years ago. I just want to know, like, how do you guys and Percolate find the balance between, the work that matters, the work that you actually like, and the work that makes money, right? Because at the end of the day, like, the agency gotta survive, and the people gotta eat and gotta bills to pay and all that.
That's honestly, it's a really good question, and it's one of those things that I always have to be like very honest about. Is that, so let's say we just finished a series for MTV. That series was really important to me. We did way more work than what they paid us for because I wanted it to be as good as it needed to be, because
it was so good though.
It was so good. Hey, it's me.
But honestly, at the end of the day, the money was obviously great that they paid us anything, but really I would just want to be like, if a kid sees, like if a 15-year-old sees this, are they going to care about it? If we operated like that on every project we did, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I'd be like living at my mom's house with no company and everyone hating me because they lost their jobs. On the other hand, we made a health and safety PSA series for Cartoon Network. That paid really well. It was super boring. The health and safety company that we worked with on it made us do like 50 or 60 different revisions. It was stressful. It wasn't fun. And nobody will remember it probably. But at the same time, it kept making sure that everyone had a paycheck. So the way I've always tried to do it is Martin Scorsese has a saying that it's like you do one for the money and one for yourself. If you can try to even stay close to that, then you're still doing pretty well. If you ever find it where you're going like, I'm doing everything for the money and I hate myself, then that's where you're getting into problem territory. But at the end of the day, it's difficult. It's really difficult.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Are you trying to butt in? What do you want to say, Sam?
I wanted to add, I think it takes a long time.
That's her back there.
In the background. It takes a long time to get to a point where we can even have something like MTV giving us the opportunity to over-deliver on a project. So we got massively underpaid for the MTV project, but we had the ability, like Ryan said, to go like, this is something that we can make amazing and that we want to like sort of invest in. But that doesn't just happen. So one of the other things is like, we've done a lot of non-commercial work. Like a lot of people might have seen Rendang of Death or other things that we've done where we've invested profits from commercial work that we've done that we haven't necessarily been in love with, but reinvested that into something that we are in love with. So like the MTVs don't just happen. You have to sort of like prove a concept first.
MTV doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
Hard work, losing lots of money.
Cool. I love how Sam is just like in the background over there. Like, that's
Dude,
perfect.
she secretly so much wishes this was her talk. She's so jealous right now.
You guys should have done it together. It's just like, I remember the last time you guys did when you guys typically do these talks, like, or the last time I saw Sam did a talk, I think it was that creative fasters something. Idea Fest. There you go. Yeah. And then like I didn't know like what was the division of labor like as CD and MD, like who likes to speak more. But yeah, it's I'm very happy both you guys are chiming in. Any other questions for Ryan or Samantha?
So here's the first lesson: is you don't go into business with your wife ever.
Okay, I'll shoot one. So I know that like when I first applied for a job at Percolate, again it's like 2014 or whatever.
You did?
Yeah, so that's actually like how so again, I knew I would have to repeat this, but so how I came to be internet friends with Ryan and Sam, I actually was tired of where I was working and I heard about Percolate and I thought they were cool and I applied to be a writer, and they sent me a response. I thought I wasn't good enough, but apparently Ryan just clarified like I was too expensive at the time or whatever, and from there they invited me to a Halloween party, and that's sort of like how we got to know each other, and now we just kind of on a regular basis complain about how much it sucks to run a creative business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Places like God, I hate Lazada. Could never imagine anyone wanting to work at Lazada.
But yeah, I guess my question is like when I first sent in that application, I remember seeing like a Facebook post or something about some of the work that you guys really hated doing for, I want to say Ranch Market or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, what is like the what's the pain threshold for you to like suffer through work that, you know, those barometers you put that you mentioned, is it good and does it matter? Like a lot of times I'm like, this is not good. This does not matter. Like, how do you reconcile that, I guess, as you kind of want to get to the point where, you know, at one point this will matter because it will get me to a position where I can do something more meaningful?
I think actually I heard a really good answer from this. It was by a Filipino animator that I had met one time. He has a film on Netflix that's called like Hayop Ka, which is really, really funny too. And he was just like, he spent at one point 10 years working on a film. And he did it while he was shooting commercials, while he was doing all this other shit that he hated. And he was like, I have a plan. If that plan takes me 10 years, okay, but the plan is going to finish. I'm going to get what I want in the end. And I think that's the easiest way to like get through something like a Ranch Market, which was the first client we ever had. Oh God. But, and I think part of the reason that we ended up doing things like going into animation, which was something that I really wanted to do, but we knew wasn't going to make a lot of money, was, let's say something like, we had a project with Netflix. That was one of the worst years of my life. At the end of the day, it paid for helping us do things like getting to go to South by Southwest with Rendon of Death. And more importantly, it led us to a place where eventually now I can hopefully make more money from the animation department and we don't have to such flex.
I just love the casual, like, get us to South by Southwest. I'm like, how many fucking
Dude,
Indonesian.
so actually, at South by Southwest, I was in a category that was judged by one of my animation idols. We did not win that category at all. We were not mentioned in that category at all. Like, we were definitely like, who wants to have the weird stoner film next to all these other ones that's going to go to the Oscars later? So yeah, that was very humbling. But I do think the business as usual. The big thing is so long as you have this larger thing ahead of you, this like final goal, like I want to achieve this. Well, everything like that gets you there, even if it sucks, you can rationalize it as just being part of I'm going towards this. And the reason that, at least, and this is me just talking out of my ass, but I think the reason that a lot of people end up like angry and poisoned is this is just like, I want a bunch of money. And that's like the entire rationale for why they're doing what they're doing. And then they start to go like, well, then I should just pay people less. Or I should do this as quickly and as badly as I can because I just want the paycheck at the end. Or it doesn't matter what I do, just so long as I get a paycheck. And for a lot of people, that isn't avoidable. Like, I've done those jobs too. I've worked in kitchens. I've walked dogs. I've worked on freight delivery and stuff like that with dudes who literally had no choice in the matter because the thing they wanted up here was like, I'm going to feed my kid. And so if you have an opportunity, like I think most of us listening here do, press to activate movie shooting, I feel almost an obligation to some of those dudes that I used to work with, where I'm just like, if I don't have an up here that actually matters, or even like a better one, my mom. My mom has been a nurse for almost 30 years now. My mom gets paid shit. Her up here is that kids don't die. Like, and so if I'm not devoted to something better than like, I'm just gonna make some money, then I'm an asshole, man, that I've wasted my time. So I guess I can't even remember what the original question was. I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, I think that answers it. I think
the other thing though, is the Samantha chime in, is also that we have really strong established corporate ethics. So there are things that we'll do where it's like, oh, this project fucking sucks, but we're gonna do it because it pays well, and that money will allow us to either over deliver on projects that we really care about that don't pay as well, or to do our own in-house projects that will help further us towards our ultimate goal. But there are some things that are like non-negotiables for us. Like, we won't work on any tobacco brand. We won't work on any mining or like natural resources type of project. So even when we're taking the projects that we're like, oh, this is fucking boring and we hate it, and this is not the kind of work that we want to do, at the same time, it's sort of like, at least we know we're not making the world a worse place. Like, we might not be creating like amazing content that's changing the world for the better, but we also are very like dedicated to making sure that when we are working for money, it's like not making the world worse. Why are you smirking?
I don't know.
You're such an ass.
I'm not an ass. People should be nicer to me.
Thanks for adding that. Yeah, full disclosure, a lot of the, the principles that you guys started Percolate out with, like identifying what sucks about creative in Indonesia, how, like you said, if the ultimate goal is like, my ultimate goal is just money, then it's pretty easy. Just pay people as little as possible, fire anyone who wants a raise, right? And then you could be like pretty successful that way. I mean, plenty of people are very successful that way, but as you said, like maybe, I don't know, they hate themselves or something like that. But yeah, full disclosure, I stole a lot of that stuff in thinking about how we should set up Fuse Lab. I stole a lot of stuff from you guys. So thanks for that. Anyway, any other questions? I think there's a question from Jojo in the chat, but it
Yeah,
kind of
Jojo sama
touches.
Hoho.
Okay, so we got. Okay, so Jojo, how can we create a thing that matters in a world full of overloaded information? How can we have that kind of vision? Jojo is one of our senior ADs.
Cool. So I guess the easiest way to deal with that is to just find something that matters to you and then go with it. And then there's a very decent chance that you're going to make something that you care about deeply, and not that many people are going to even notice it or see it or care about it. Like the majority of the stuff that we've made independently that was just like for love itself rather than for any actual reason. Like, look at our YouTube. You got like 5,000 people that saw it, maybe. And then you just kind of ask yourself, like, is this worth it to me? Am I making something that actually matters to me? And if the answer is that yes, and you love it, then just keep doing it. And hopefully I think of like, I know Obed, I've talked a lot of shit about him because I don't like people who worship Elon Musk. But Beep, the NFT creator, he literally spent like, I think 10 years of his life just making an image every day, simply because that was a good creative expression for him. That could have been nothing. Like that could have just been this weird hobby that he does, and then people point and laugh. But instead, somehow he managed to translate that into, this is going to make him a lot of money. And it was random. That didn't need to happen. It could have not happened. But it was something he wanted to do, so he just went on and he did it. And a lot of it is just finding something that you love and then going for it. And then if you're lucky, someone will pick it up and you'll go somewhere with it. But yeah, shit, that one's hard.
Jojo, does that answer your question? You're gonna focus more on the baked goods? Is that your North Star? All right, cool. And then Hario, do you guys have a special way to keep the creativity level of the team in check, or how to improve it?
Honestly, that's another one that's really hard, and it's become a lot harder once everybody went remote. And when you're all in a room together, an idea can just kind of like shoot around the room, or like someone starts talking about a movie they saw, and then someone else references another movie they saw, and then everything just kind of like comes together. And then all of those references build on each other. When you're sitting, yes, in a remote situation, honestly, and because Obed said all these nice things about me, like what Obed's doing with this is really good. Like I wanted to do something like this and had never gotten around to it just because we had been, well, shitheads and hadn't organized it. Because I think that this sort of thing is really important, and that people sharing stories and just like talking to each other about things that they feel that matters to them is a brilliant way to keep people engaged. And we need more of it. With the animation team, which is specifically the team that I run on my own for the most part, there will be times when we'll go like, okay, what was the last cartoon you actually watched that you weren't working on? And people will be like, oh shit, it's been 2 years. And you'll go like, okay, it's time to actually go back and watch what people are making right now and re-engage with that. And you'll start seeing then people come back and they're like, I just watched blah, blah, blah. I just watched blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly everyone's just kind of like on the jag for a while and it starts to work again. But it's something that, especially with this work from home, this format is wonderful, but it really just is like talking to people about the stuff that you become obsessed with. And then hopefully that creates a sense of like building and community. Do you have something to add here?
Here's Samantha in the background's contribution. One of the things Ryan didn't mention is that we hold a lot of space within our work schedule for people to pursue their own independent creative goals. And so like some of the weird shit that you've seen like on our Instagram and things like that, Ryan and I don't even understand what's happening a lot of the time. We're like, the fuck did you guys create? But whatever, like as long as it kept your creative juices flowing, and it prevents some of the burnout of doing some of the more like monotonous work that we all end up having to do, because that's just part of the job and part of the industry. And so like, I think our most recent one was that like weird as fuck Independence Day karaoke video that the team released. And that was starring Ronnie. And that was our like video production team just wanted to have some fun with video editing. And we were like, all right, do it. And we, you know, they do it on the clock. So like they're not having to spend their own free time doing it. So we definitely hold space like within our work schedule for them to pursue whatever weird ass idea they come up with. And then sometimes those weird ass ideas turn into something bigger. So like Caddis Pocus, the animated short we did, Ryan and I had no involvement in Caddis Pocus. That was like just 100% they wanted to make that. Yeah, so I think that's also really important. It's like finding creative outlets for them and letting them work together. It improves the teamwork. It improves like interdepartment teamwork, because there's often like people coming in, like the writers will jump in to help write the script, and the you know, designers will jump in to help create assets. And so yeah, it just keeps everybody happy and motivated and feeling like they're not just stuck in this endless like cycle of creating like shitty social media posts for a client that they're not feeling super inspired about.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we're just starting to get there. Oh, perfect answer, says Hario. Yes. So Hario he's on our he's one of our content strategists. So he definitely vibes with making posts for clients that aren't particularly inspiring. But yeah, we're sort of in the early stages of trying to work that time into our schedule to do stuff that's just interesting for us. Question from wait, I don't want to skip a question. Oh, Fiona, what lesson can you share after all the time spent on boring projects? How do you appreciate it as a creator?
I think actually that if you come in with the right mindset, boring projects can be great, because they teach you like the discipline that you need to make something that's going to be better. Like like I said earlier, we were working on that Cartoon Network thing, which was like, what to do if you break a bone, what to do in a storm, what to do in an earthquake. All of those things were still animated films or animated shorts. They were only a minute long. Like we still had to do all of the process, all of the scripting, all of the storyboards, all of the animatics. We had to arrange all of the background assets because we had to take stuff from other studios and then integrate it into our own work. All of that is important stuff. And the only difference is when we were doing that there, we were getting kind of almost paid to learn more and more about the process and develop like the discipline to start making our own things. So if you can take a project that you're not particularly enjoying and then break it down into like, okay, well, what can I actually learn from this? Or even if the only thing you learn from this is that if you get through something quickly and support the people around you, that it goes faster and you don't have to deal with it anymore, then that's a good lesson too. Just working through something shitty can be its own good lesson. The boring projects, and they exist and there's lots of them, it's just finding a way to take what good you can from them. Instagram account, the contents are awesome. How do you manage the percolate Instagram effect? How does it affect the business? Oh, God.
Wait, I also have a Samantha add in.
Oh,
Because
please.
I can't help myself. I think one of the other things about the boring projects is that the longer you establish a relationship with the client, you can slowly start creeping weirder and weirder shit into it. And you have to do it slowly. You can't just take a traditional corporate client and throw some crazy ass shit at them. But if you have a long-term relationship with a client, once you've sort of proven that like we know what we're doing, you can trust us, you can get some rope and get away with some stuff. We have a client, the project is for HIV and AIDS education. I wouldn't say it's a boring project because it's an incredibly important project. But traditionally, that's not an exactly like fun thing to be working on. But we got the client to let us make a parody video of like a cheater, like an episode of Cheaters, and it was insane, like absolutely ridiculous, campy as fuck, super crazy, and the client was on board for the whole thing. But we've been working with them for a couple of years, and it took time to like get them to that point where they would accept something like that without going like, there's no way in hell that we're gonna green light this. So starting slowly and building up that trust with your clients, I think is a good way to take those boring projects and get them to become a little bit more fun. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, love it. I think we relate to that a lot. I think a few of the clients that we've been with for like 2-3 years now, we're sort of just now being able to do weirder stuff like Mars rover for April Fool's Day with Bluebird, or like we totally get that, but it's just it does take a lot of patience to like build that good faith capital with the client, and do some of the less exciting briefs. Thanks for adding that, Sam. What else? Akbar has a question. He's one of our video editors. How do you maintain idealism versus realism in creativity?
That alien thing was... whoa.
Oh.
Someone was just like pulled apart by wolves in another channel. I think that's another one where it's both a combination of what Sam just said and kind of what we've been saying to some of the other answers is you have to be as realistic as the client allows and as idealistic as you can be. And actually, one of the people I'm working with at Cartoon Network came to me with a really good approach, and she said, like, you should always start the negotiation on creative, if you can, way out here. And so by the time that you've come way back towards there, the other side feels like they basically won, even though that they're not getting anything that they wanted right from the start. So if you're in a position right from the start to be able to go like, and then we should do this, 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 and this, it puts you in a stronger final position that in the end you can go like, well, we'll compromise and do this. And obviously that's unrealistic sometimes. There are just clients who are going to go like, you will do this and you will do that, and that's the end of it. But that's a difficult one, again. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I was just going to say we ignored the question about how we manage our social media, but the answer to that is that we don't.
We don't manage the social media.
We don't. We just post shit occasionally when things are created.
In like a couple weeks, I'm sure someone will like change the password on it and turn it into an OnlyFans account. And be like, I don't know what happens, but we're going to jail now.
But do you know like roughly how much time the team spends on like managing it or making stuff specifically for your Instagram?
We don't really make stuff specifically for our Instagram. It's more like when I was saying that we let them do projects that are like just for fun projects. Okay. Then when those projects are done, we post them on our social media or our YouTube, like whatever platform it makes sense for. But we don't map out like a strategy like that we're gonna do this, this, and this for our social media. It's really much more like every team knows that they have the freedom to create whatever they want. And usually they'll run it by me and Ryan, like, hey, we've got some space in our production schedule. Can we make this thing? And we'll just be like, yeah, sure. And then when it's done, we post it. And that's basically the extent of it. Sometimes it's like a new hire learning the ropes. So like that vaccine one that we just posted was a newer team member who was learning how to direct their first animation. And so we wouldn't ever test somebody out on a client project. So she directed that animation on her own. And then it was like, okay, now we'll just put it on social media. There are some things like we always make something for Halloween. We always make something. But even then, we just sort of go like, anybody have any ideas? Anybody want to do something? And somebody just usually chimes in and wants to do something. But there's really no actual strategy. There's zero strategy.
Cool. Love it. Yeah, we're just kicking around some stupid ideas. Our Instagram game is comparatively weak, you know, so we were thinking along the same lines, like just make shit that is funny to us and just run with it. We'll see how it pans out though.
Stuff we make like ends up being a meme, like an ongoing percolate meme. So like we'll make something and then people really respond to it, and then we just keep adding it into things, like that weird looking uncle guy who always carries around the bag of tea. I don't know if you guys are familiar with our social media, but like people just really liked him when we have.
Dude, that was in like 3 posts a year and a half ago.
Well, like so then we just keep putting him in again. Like they become internal.
He hasn't. That character hasn't been part of anything for a very long time.
Anyway,
Samantha doesn't look at our social media.
You know what? You turn off your camera.
She's big. Like looking at like teenagers do stuff on TikTok, and it's fucking weird. Yeah. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable.
Oh man.
It's how I stay connected to you.
Yeah. You gotta stay relevant. No, I don't get TikTok. Are you on TikTok, Ryan?
I am not on TikTok.
I'm the only cool kid here.
We've got a couple team members on TikTok. I've been on and off like 3 or 4 times in the last year, because every time I give it a shot, I'm like, I think I get it. And then like 2 days later, I'm like, man, fuck this. And then like I uninstall it. And then I'm like, maybe I should understand this for my clients. And I install it again. And then I'm like, I think I get it. And inevitably it's like, no, this is just trash. And I'm probably wrong. I'm most likely wrong about that. But anyway, I think those are all the questions in the chat. Any other questions?
I have one question, Beth.
Shoot, Bobon.
Hey Ryan, how do you guys source for talent, man? How do you what do you guys look in people that you deem, oh, okay, this guy or this girl is good enough for us? What would you see as the special trait that you look for in talents?
I think that one's actually, it can be a really difficult thing, because actually we've had a great deal of problems the last few hiring cycles we've had. bringing the right person in. I guess I can say that we're exploring right now, working on a series for Cartoon Network, and we were like, we're going to bring in a background, someone to just draw background art exclusively. We'll get a senior manager for that. And we put it up, and the wage for it was, by animation standards, quite high. And we got something like 95 applicants, and maybe 3 of them were qualified. And of those 3 people that came in, 2 of them, even though they were qualified, were just completely wrong for the position, all on their own. The best luck we've had so far is honestly taking people when they're just starting at the intern level, and then letting them find their voice as they come up through the company and as they learn what they're doing. We've had people display like talents that are just absolutely extraordinary, and just because they were allowed to grow.
Yeah, we have people on our animation team who never studied animation.
Yeah, I mean that's
cool.
That's one of my favorite things about animation here is like whenever you see someone who's, and we do hand drawn, which is just like the literal frame by frame drawing. They don't even teach that in Indonesian schools. Someone had to sit down.
They
and
used to
learn.
actually, but not anymore.
Yeah, it sucks. I've had very angry arguments actually with the staff at UMN about that. But if someone was willing to sit down and teach themselves how to do frame by frame animation, which I suck at, and get reasonably good at it, and then we can give them space to develop, it's amazing what can happen. So I think that's always the way that we've had the best luck, is finding people who are just exuberant about what they're doing
and what we do,
and I guess what
like
we do.
Culture,
yeah,
yeah.
And then just giving them space to grow into their position.
Our team is young. Like no one on our team is over 30.
Ajui's over 30.
No, Ajui is 29.
Ajui is 29.
Yeah.
People who are 29 have children.
So our team is extremely young, and we have quite a few people on our team who've been with us for like 4 or 5 years, who started as interns and just never left. So like we tend to hire people who are either like an intern who just becomes an employee, or people who are maybe 1 or 2 years of experience, and then we bring them in. And for us, I think the biggest thing is really like the culture fit and the chemistry with the team. We have a very youthful team and also a very diverse team, like a lot of people on the LGBTQ spectrum. And so like we very much have like a 0 tolerance policy for anybody who's not super open-minded and okay with the type of workspace that we run. And a lot of the projects we work on are also, you know, a little risque maybe by more conservative Indonesian standards. So, you know, like you have to be comfortable creating content about gay men having sex. And if you're not, then this isn't like the right place for you. So yeah, so culture fit I think is our #1 thing, and it is quite difficult. And the reason I think our team is so young is because the younger generation tends to be a lot more open to the way that we work and to our expectations and our culture, our company culture. But like Ryan said, also when we're looking for people with more like specialized traits, it's really hard to find the right people. Even like the industry standard software for animation is called Toon Boom. And when you learn animation in an Indonesian school, they don't teach you that software. It would be like studying graphic design, but they teach you like with MS Paint. And then they're like, now go get your job in graphic design, and you've like never used Illustrator before. And so when we hire people for our animation team, even if they have a degree in animation, they still have to learn like from scratch. how to do the job.
No, one of my favorite stories is actually before Walt Disney became evil, in the 1920s. He had to basically teach every person who came to his studio how to animate. And so at one point, 70% of his company was literally just young people, like 19 to 24, sitting at their desk with a guy standing over them going like, no, you're doing it wrong. And they weren't even making films for Disney yet. He had to train his entire workforce. And obviously that's insane because we would go broke if we had to do that. But I think that that's almost can be a little bit where you're at.
Yep.
Is if you create a system that allows like these people to learn these skills and then they can explore wherever they want to go with them, it leads to something really cool.
Yeah, love that answer. Really great question. And funny fella just joined. I think she was probably busy with some Bluebird stuff. But the whole thing you guys were talking about, like having interns and then giving them space to figure stuff out. And like a few people on this call started out as interns and now have been with us for like 2 going on 3 years. Some of them in graphic design, some of them transitioned into motion. And yeah, that's really as far as recruitment goes, I think like Bobon and I and most of the leadership team, whenever we try to find specialized talent, it's so fucking hard because either they're underqualified or overqualified or expensive as fuck, and it's a risk because you don't really know if the culture fit will be there. So yeah, that really love that answer. Thanks for sharing that. Any other questions, fella? Sorry you're late to the cool conversation here, but any questions from the rest of the team?
We've been talking about pornography for the last hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah,
it's been a really awkward.
That's why we have to screen our hires carefully, because Ryan says shit like that. We don't want to get sued.
I'm the way more conservative of the two of us.
So on to the next order of business. Percolate X Fuse Lab OnlyFans account. When is that happening?
Oh, I'm in.
Oh yeah, right. We already Kemal's already in. Sorry. Okay. Any other questions? We've already gone a little bit over time. Ryan, sorry to take up more than an hour. Final thoughts or questions from the team, or any like closing statement from you, Ryan? Jesus, that's formal. But any final thoughts?
No, other than the fact that so you guys at Fuse Lab, first, congratulations on the win. Congratulations on beating MNC Saatchi. God, I hate them.
Yes.
Sam has spent whole days on LinkedIn fighting with MNC Saatchi's CEO.
That post I made on Instagram about awards being bullshit was all about MNC Saatchi because the fucking CEO is such a prick.
Yeah. Okay. She's gonna get us in trouble.
Yeah.
Regardless, I think it's a little bit of a Koji Obata situation where you would assume that everyone at Fuse Lab is just like, we're doing stuff and no one's actually noticing the fact that the quality of it is like going like that. And I've been noticing the whole time. I've been going like, oh my God, the level is so different than where we both started. And so again, I noticed the work that you guys do, and I think it's really good. I talked to Hadi Ismanto over at Manual, and he thinks it's really good, and Hadi hates you guys because he wants you to suck more.
What the fuck? I thought we were buddies. I thought Hadi and I were hitting it off.
He can crush all his competition. That's not true. I love Hadi. Hadi's great. He's definitely not a monster. Yeah, probably. Regardless, I think that would just be my closing statement is like, you guys are doing amazing work. And I feel really lucky that I got asked to talk to you guys because it's really cool. And so I'm really excited to see where you guys take things. And I think everyone's going to be excited to see where you guys take things with the OnlyFans.
Yeah, let's do it. Damn. Well, I think we'll end it on that very, very high note. Thank you so much for the kind words, man. And yeah, it is a trip when you say that to think about, you know, how we started out in 2017 and where we are now. It's the slope is imperceivable in the day to day, right? But yeah, just to hear you say that, it means so much to the whole team here. I'm sure you guys are fucking amazing. I mean, like in the last year alone, I think we've done so much better. And yeah, it's just like the talk that Ryan just gave. It feels like nobody notices, but people notice. Just if you keep your head down and do the work and avoid trying to just chase the money. If you have some other higher calling, whatever it may be for you, it can be meaningful, including the boring shit, right? Anyway, let's hear it again for Ryan. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much,
Let's
Ryan.
take cool picture, man.
Yeah, you mind if we take a Samantha also? Let's hear it for Samantha.
Hi, Sam. Well, thank you.
Do you guys mind if we take a dumb picture together? 1, 2, 3. Okay, awesome. Got it. Dude, so good to catch up with you. And Sam, thank you so much. Everyone, thanks for your time. Hope you enjoyed the talk.